What's going on, everyone? So the Miami Heat were really struggling and ended up making a trade for Terry Rozier, which made a lot of sense, right? A point guard, also could play shooting guard, a guy that go give you 20 plus on any given night, guy that can make plays for others. He was playing excellent for the Charlotte Hornets. They desperately needed somebody like him, dynamic, just athletic, scoring type of guard that can make plays and create his own offense. That is something that was very warranted. And I do believe Terry Rozier is going to be very impactful for Miami at some point. But so far, he has been atrocious. He's played 3 games. Again, small sample size. He's getting acclimated. He's getting adjusted. I don't want to blow it out of proportion, but it's been a problem because Miami's not in a position to have him take 10 games to figure stuff out. But through 3 games, 2 of which he started, one which was the first game he came off the bench, which, again, I understand. You're trying to integrate him in first game. You want to give him a game or two. He's averaging 30 minutes per game. He is shooting 30% from the field on 11 attempts. He is shooting 18.2% from 3-point range. He's shooting 36.5% from 2-point range. He is averaging 8.7 points, 5 assists, which is good, 1 steal, and 3.7 rebounds a game, along with 1.7 turnovers. That is not good. Again, to put that in perspective with Charlotte, he was playing 35 minutes per game. He was also getting 18.3 attempts, so 7 more attempts per game, which is understandable. Now he's on Miami. You got Bam, you got Jimmy, you got Tyler Hero, you got various other guys. You figured his shot attempts would probably drop somewhat. I'd like to see him get around at least 15 attempts per game. But again, to put in perspective for Charlotte, he was shooting 45.9% compared to 30%. He was shooting 36% from 3-point range on 7.7 attempts, so nearly double the attempts per game that he's gotten with Miami, shooting basically double the percentage. He was shooting 53.3% from 2-point range compared to 36.5%. And as far as everything else, he was averaging 23 points, which now his number is down to 21 points per game, but 23 points, 6.6 assists, and 3.9 rebounds. So he's averaging technically more rebounds if he was getting the extra 5 minutes, and you could argue more assists, but the offensive production has been awful. And again, the concern is Miami is just not in a good spot. They are currently, at the time of recording this video, obviously things could change, but at the time of recording this video, the Miami Heat are currently on a 6-game losing streak. They are 24-22 on the season. They are half a game of falling out of 8th place, and luckily, they have such a good lead on teams like the Bulls and the Nets and the Hawks, who have just been atrocious this year, that they'll probably at worst finish in that 7 to 8 range. But Chicago's been much better. Not really worried about the Brooklyn Nets catching, but they have a 3-game lead on the Chicago Bulls. But again, Chicago's been surging. It's kind of becoming the same story with the Miami Heat. And look, you never count Miami out. Miami's just one of those teams. Every year, you doubt them, and every year they just come alive come postseason. You get playoff Jimmy buckets, and this team is just primed and ready to match up against anybody. But this is becoming a trend with the regular season, where they're just a play-in team. And how long is that sustainable for a team like Miami? And Miami's only getting older. Guys like Jimmy and Bam and stuff like that are only getting older. And the problem is that, like, Terry Rozier, I think, is great. And again, I do believe will make a huge impact on this team at some point. I do, assuming he gets back to being what he was with Charlotte. There is always a possibility he doesn't, and he just kind of becomes serviceable, and you just gave up, a first to go get him. I mean, it was a protected first, but still, you didn't want to give up assets. You wanted him because he was playing so great. But I do think he is a guy that's going to, but they still need that true impact star player. Them missing out on Damian Lillard, which a lot of it was their fault. Playing games, messing around. There was that report that like Miami basically dared Utah to find a better deal, or to find Portland a better deal. And guess what? Portland did. And now he's on Milwaukee. And I know a lot of people are like, well, he's been bad this year, especially on the offense side. He hasn't been Damian Lillard, which is true. But I actually think he would have been a lot better on Miami because I think he would have been allowed to just kind of be Dame. Still a little awkwardness with Dame in Milwaukee. And they don't have, like, the beauty of Miami is they have a guy in Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, even Martin, who he's been pretty bad this year, but still, like, guys that do the dirty work. And guys that are fine with just locking down defensively. And you have a superstar in Jimmy Butler who he doesn't care whether he scores 10 or he scores 30. He just wants to win the game. And if he has to let Damian Lillard go off for 40 a game, and he's just basically locking down defensively, passing the ball up, doing all the dirty work, he's okay with it. Another real problem, though, is too with Jimmy is regular season performances versus postseason. It's almost like he's disinterested at times in the regular season. Like, genuinely. Like, there's times in games where you're watching Jimmy and it's just like, dude, like, did you just, like, not want to play today? Or, like, what is going on? And that's a big problem, too, because you have to win regular season games to get into the postseason, right? Like, and I understand Miami's looking at it as, like, if we get in, everybody's in trouble, because they've just proven that year in and year out. But still, it's like, at some point, that's going to stop. At some point, you're fighting too big of an uphill battle. And you saw it, right? Like, and they just don't have this overwhelming talent. So the fact that they missed out on Damian Lillard, I think, really hurts them. And which is why I think that they need, the only way that I see them really potentially winning a championship is if they go get a guy like a Donovan Mitchell or something like that, where you basically go get a guy that he can handle and take over and basically generate his own offense, basically a souped up version of Terry Rozier. Again, I like the idea of Terry Rozier. I like what Terry Rozier is going to bring to this team. I think he would be very good for this team. But they need the superstar version of him, not Terry Rozier, if they really want to potentially win a championship. So unless they get a guy like a Donovan Mitchell or, a Joel Embiid or some crazy superstar player that basically they're clearly the number one option, and you could get away with that because Jimmy Butler, again, doesn't care. He doesn't care if he's the fifth option, right? He's going to do what he has to do to win. And you get a guy that could generate the offense and just really have that impact. I think Miami needs that desperately because they have too many times where their offense is just incredibly stagnant and just cannot, like, they can't buy a bucket because they don't have real offensive generators, right? Like Jimmy buckets, don't get me wrong, he can go get a bucket whenever he wants, especially in the postseason. But he's not this, like, super gifted natural scorer. Jimmy Butler just goes and scores on, like, pure willpower and strength and determination. He's just kind of like, I am going to just dominate you and there's nothing you can do about it, right? But he's not this guy that's just, like, crossing people over, pulling up on the mid-range, step back, hitting threes, step back, hitting pull-ups. Like, he's not this, like, super gifted natural scorer. And so he either has to be the playmaker that's getting guys set up and then have to go get a guy like Bam Adebayo, who, again, needs setup. Tyler Hero is more of a six-man. Tyler Hero can generate his offense at times, and he can be explosive at times. Like, Tyler Hero is their best natural scorer, but he's not, like, super elite, right? Like, when he's on, he's great. But, like, he's kind of a guy that, like, you want as, like, your secondary guy, right? Or, like, your sixth man. They need that, like, high impact, can basically be an offense by themselves. To where, Jimmy can be the kind of point forward But you have that guy that's able to just penetrate, get to the basket, pull up in a mid-range, step back, hit a three, play off ball. Jimmy's got the ball, right? Defenses collapse, kick out, boom, there's a bucket, right? Drive and kick. Oh, there's the cutter. Let me hit the cutter, right? You need somebody like that can generate for others, but also just go get a bucket. You can put the ball in his hands. Man, we haven't scored in 2 minutes. Mitchell, go get us a 6-0 run or something by yourself, and he could just do it. They don't have anybody that's really like that. And Jimmy's not really Jimmy buckets until it comes to playoff time, which I understand the sort of rigmarole of like the regular season. You're just constantly all right, we got to do this. We got to play this 82 games. Where like you get into the postseason, and it's like, all right, let's go. Now we're playing for championships here. Let's get it. Right? I do understand that. But again, you have to win regular season games to get to the postseason to now potentially put yourself in a position to win championships. And you being a play-in team year in and year out is just not good. Because you're putting yourself in a position where now you have to win 1 or 2 extra games. You also run the risk of you just losing in the play-in, and now you don't get it. And it's like, man, well, if we just won 3 more games, we would have been the 6th seed. And that's a real problem. And you're looking at, teams are just... Miami being the 7th seed, I just think that that's fair. The Celtics, the Bucks, the Sixers are clearly better than them. The Knicks and the Cavs, I believe, are better than them. And the Knicks have been just insane since the OG trade. And the Pacers just got Siakam and are already ahead of you. And if Siakam works out like he's starting to look like he's going to work out, then the Pacers are probably better than you. And again, I understand, and I always want to give some credit to Miami come postseason, because again, you never know with Miami, right? And there are concerns with the Celtics and the Bucks and Sixers. There's concerns with all these teams, but as far as just overall talent, I think Miami is the 7th best team. And unlike last season, where it was basically the Bucks and the Celtics, and everyone else was kind of just a big question mark, I think a lot of teams are just better, right? The Knicks are clearly better than they were last season. The Sixers, you can make an argument, have been much better this season. They're deeper. They're not so reliant on just 2 guys, right? A team effort, they have 4 guys averaging 20. And, a team like the Cavs, they've had another year with Donovan Mitchell. They've been playing good basketball. Pacers, they just got big moves, and they've really taken off, and they have a historically great offense, right? So you have more teams that are more interested. And if we're being honest, Miami lucked out in a lot of ways last season. If Giannis doesn't get hurt in that Bucks series, does Miami really beat Milwaukee? Probably not. Now, I'm not saying that there's no way that they would have, but a healthy Giannis, that entire series start to finish, the Bucks probably win that, right? He ends up missing a game, they win that, then he comes back, and he shouldn't even have came back. He's on one leg. He's not the right guy. He's not the same guy, clearly. I know he had some good games, but he was struggling. And Miami was just hot and took advantage, and then they rode that momentum. Boston, they're better this year than they were last year. I do have concerns about Boston still falling apart in the playoffs, right? Again, I want to give Miami a chance against everybody, but you keep painting yourself into these corners, and the East is much better than they were last year, and you are kind of just the same. If not, kind of worse. And that's a problem. So it's just I don't know. It's one of those things where, Miami might just be that team that just every year they're close, but they just can't get over that hump. And unless they get that real superstar, that real impact player, I just don't see them getting over the hump. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass a question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? How do you feel about it? again, whatever it is, whatever your thoughts are, I would love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Lets me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate you all. See you in the next one. Thank you.